Hi, everybody. Hello again.
Hello.
Hello. I am here with my friend Julian Corwin, who I met in person in 2014, I'm guessing.
PDTR, yeah.
Yeah, the year all shit went loose for me. What's the
I
expression?
think for lots of people.
It seems so. I think 2014 was an interesting year. At a class called Proprioceptive Deep Tendon Reflex, which is a neurological technique that he and we took together through advanced, I think, right? So we had many opportunities to spend time together, and I've just considered him to be such a close friend ever since. So
Ditto.
This is really fun to have you here, even though you're all the way in California, be able to talk with you. So feel very excited about it. So
me too. I've been thinking about it all day.
Have you?
Yeah.
Me too. So would you share with everyone kind of a little bit of your background and how you came here?
Sure. So I don't know how far back to go exactly, but I grew up in Oregon, and then I excelled in like the scientific type of studies, and I ended up going to California for school at a school called California Polytechnic State University, and studied electrical engineering there. And I met my wife there. And after graduation, I got a job here in Santa Rosa, which is where I'm living now, at a test and measurement company called Agilent Technologies, which is like they're like the leading company in measuring electromagnetic signals. Yeah. And I worked on a product called spectrum analyzers, which is like we talk about frequencies like energetic frequencies, like spectrum analyzers are all about electromagnetic frequency. So like you have DC, which is like 0 hertz. It doesn't oscillate at all. It's just straight current. And then you could have 60 hertz. That's what's in the walls. And then you could have 2.4 gigahertz, which is what your cell phone uses, right? And so I worked on these devices that measure how much energy is at each frequency. So I worked there for 6 years. My wife worked here in town. And as I was working there, I look back on it now as like, some part of me knew that was like, something's not right here. Like I shouldn't be here type of thing. But how that manifested for me physically was like, I'd have aches and pains and problems, and mostly in my arms from typing all day and working at a computer. But there was while there was a physical discomfort, there was a deeper discomfort, like what am I doing here? Like there wasn't really enough. I look at it back now as like there wasn't enough meaning in the work. There wasn't enough purpose and impact. And I started getting into physical fitness and nutrition a lot during this time, and that was actually really useful because I resolved some chronic GI issues I had through nutrition, and I actually attained a level of fitness that I'd never had before. Like I was the most fit I'd ever been after. Because what I did at Agilent, since I was kind of getting really bored with the work, is I spent as little time as I could there without like losing the perception that I was like an average employee at the very least, while spending all my time I could researching nutrition and fitness. And so I attained to like pretty high level of fitness, but then I started getting injured. And that's what led me into this work via our mutual friend, Thomas Wells. So I was reading about fitness, and I think I was reading a Tim Ferriss book. I think it was 4 Hour Body, because I'd read his 4 Hour Work Week, and that had launched me into all these side projects. And then 4 Hour Body, he talked about recovering from injuries, and in it he mentioned active release technique. And then I just Googled active release technique, and I found Thomas, because Thomas is on Google very prominently in this area. And I've been struggling with this shoulder problem for like 6 months, and Thomas, like what he did helped me heal through that in like 1 or 2 sessions completely. And And so my mind was completely blown. I'm like, is that even possible? Here I was like looking up all these orthopedic things, anything I could. I'm like, I was convinced I had a hook to chromium because I didn't know shit about the body. And I was just looking up, search terms on Wikipedia and like, and he fixed it through using ART mostly, and a little NKT at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our second session was mostly NKT. The first one was all ART. And that got my head really thinking like, oh, wow. Like I couldn't stop thinking about like what he had just done and his education background. And I knew that there was some sort of path for me to take based on what I saw and experienced. So eventually I sort of formulated in my head this plan to transition, and then told my wife, and she was totally on board. And so quit my job and went to massage school.
So
and
cool.
And then Thomas was sort of my mentor for a while in terms of guiding me to take courses like ART and NKT, and then through NKT I took anatomy and motion, and then eventually through Thomas's mentorship as well was advised to take PDTR, and that's where we met. Yeah. So you met me like, let's see, 2014. So I had only quit my job like a year and a half prior, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that.
Huh. Yeah, I think I actually quit in August 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we were learning. It was June of 2014 that we were learning. So you quit, was in massage school and took NKT and ART like really fast?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think I started massage school. I must have started that in 2012. I think, or maybe even earlier than that. I forget. I started after my son was born. So 2012, I was in massage school. Preparing. I was still working at my job, but I was in this massage school, and I was writing a book. That's one of my side projects on how to study for this exam, for this training exam. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, so I was writing a book on how to. It was basically a compilation of all my notes. Anyways, so yeah, by 2014, I'd only been out of my work for about a year and change. Which seems like such a short time. Felt like it was longer than that, but yeah. And so now, fast forward, now it's been 6 or so years.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I landed here, and it's like it's always evolving, and it's been a crazy journey, and the things I'm into now are far different than they were at the outset.
Yeah, totally.
And just like you've experienced with physical therapy, and now the more spiritual work. And I guess skipping a bunch of little details in my life from 6 years ago till now, because a lot's happened. Now I'm more into, I guess, I think more philosophy and psychology and brain, like understanding bigger, like brain, the parts of the brain. That's what I'm studying right now. And that's been really interesting and really helpful, I found, for people. Is like when I know that stuff, I can sort of use it to help them, which seems true of like all knowledge, almost all knowledge about the body and the person. When you learn it for yourself, it is now, you can't really know how it will be useful, but it is useful.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that experience over and over. I work through something for myself emotionally or psychologically or spiritually, and then like all the people show up that need that thing too. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I'm glad I did it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's almost like you have to do it first. To really, like, I've been playing with this idea, and this will go along well. I think this will be a good sort of intermediate between like the really spiritual aspect of these interviews and like a more pragmatic view. Is like, I think if you don't experience it yourself, you would never even be aware of it, so you wouldn't even see it to begin with. Right. And so and then as soon as you're aware of it and you've dealt with it, you see it, you're suddenly seeing it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So the pragmatic perspective is like, well, you gained more knowledge and now you are aware and you can see it. The spiritual one is like, well, now the people who need it are coming to you. And I think both can be true simultaneously.
Yeah. And even from a spiritual perspective, you can't see in others their shadow, that you have the same shadow.
Yeah.
Like shadow being unconscious material, things that are still in the dark. Until you bring light to that aspect of yourself, you can't see it anywhere else. Or either that, or you see it everywhere and you hate it. That's the other thing.
So hating it would almost be like well, in that case, a form of self-hatred, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then unwillingness to go through the pain of whatever it takes to change that part of you.
Yeah.
To either gain the knowledge to get rid of it, or face the thing you're afraid of, or resolve this feeling of self-hatred, or whatever other spiritual way
For
it
me,
would
it's
take,
just,
right?
yeah. For me, it's just, oh, there's this thing. Oh, I accept this. Like, this is a part of me.
Mm.
And just by accepting that this is a part of me, oftentimes that resolves a lot of it.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it works the same in the body. Like when a person really accepts that they have a difficulty in a certain area and they aren't so in conflict with that area of their body, and they learn to love it and work with it, it just, things heal.
Yeah. And I think it also changes, and this is occurring to me as you're telling me this, it like changes the level of expectation we have about that too. Like as we accept it, we accept it for what it is. And now, since we know we accept it for what it is, we can now work to make it better too.
Yeah.
From a pragmatic point of view. Like, yeah, cool.
At first you have to see it. So this, for me, the step is, I see it in someone else, and that really pisses me off. Oh, I'm doing that too. Here's all the ways that I'm doing it. And okay, I accept that this is a human experience. Essentially, this is part of being human, and then it can heal. Then it can heal. I don't know exactly how to make that in, similar in the body, but because I don't generally dislike people's plantar fasciitis or whatever.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. It made me think of a phone conversation I had with a potential client. I'm glad didn't become one, but he was like, there was an email that went out from my system in preparation, letting him know that there was emotional work involved. And he took that as in a really negative way. It's like, I didn't come to see a shrink, and he wrote me an email, cancel my appointment. And I called him up just to like clarify some things a little bit.
Yeah.
And it really irritated me. I'm like, he's really arrogant. And well, at the time, I think I was doing something probably in my own life that was probably exhibited a high degree of arrogance.
Yeah. What does arrogance mean to you? Like, how would you define that?
I guess I would define that as like knowing, thinking you know better. I think not having the humility to accept that it's possible that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like this guy, clearly he actually needed emotional work.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was so, he was like, and it's also willful like ignorance. Like he didn't want to know about it either.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to hear what I had to say about it, and he wanted to stay in his angry arrogance, I guess.
Yeah. Or in his denial.
Yeah.
Which, it's just the way we protect ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're not ready.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yeah. So I've been working on, on like a paradigm to like understand. And we think about it in PDTR as like this hierarchy. Like what is the most important thing to work on that will give you the most results? And and along with that, I've been thinking a lot about, or listening to a lot of, what can be considered kind of a controversial figure, Jordan Peterson, who is a pragmatic philosopher, I would say, and psychologist.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like, to think about, like, having a conversation with someone, like even just the conversation you and I are having right now. And when we're speaking what we regard as the truth, and we're having an open and honest conversation, the miraculous sort of things that come out of that. And I think, I don't know where to fit that in my model. Like, somehow speech is like integral to our healing process.
Yeah.
Like the verbalizing, the talking about it, the thinking about it as we talk, because like things are coming to me now that wouldn't have come to me had I not had this conversation with you. And so that's been something that's been occupying my mind. Like, there's something about talking, and I've noticed that in our world, which is like a material, people are obsessed with like the material parts of our world. People don't value that speech as much as they should. I think, like people come to me expecting like movement and body work and neurological work, and if they're a little bit educated on what I do, they know emotional work is involved. And I get the sense that when they're here and we start talking about something and we're working through something, they're worried that they're wasting their time because they're not doing one of those other 4 things. And so I've been trying to articulate in a clear and concise manner, like how valuable it is to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And why we are getting something done, and we should value that and make time in the session for that. So
are people saying we're not getting done what we want, what we should be getting done?
Well, they'll like admonish themselves to something. Oh, I shouldn't be talking so much. They're like, you don't need to hear this. I'm like, well, maybe I do.
Yeah.
You don't know until you speak.
Right.
So that's been kind of something I've been thinking about as I've had a lot of time the past few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that used to be a way that I would pressure myself too, especially with PDTR, where you can do like really fast corrections and like hundreds of them if you want to.
Yeah.
You can just toothpick and slap for an hour and like so much change can happen. But what I came to understand over time was so many things healed just by listening.
Yeah.
Like really, like the tissue would change, the pain would change, their nervous system responses would change, like so many things would change. So what I began to do is every session I would just go to the person's feet to begin, and I would begin to just press on different acupressure points and just ask them like just very general questions about how have you been, and what's your energy been like, and what's the pain been like, and they'll start to talk, but everything, like the nervous system is changing, and so many things are changing just through that simple I don't even want to call it a technique, just that simple action, I guess, or holding space in that way.
Yeah, totally. And it's definitely not knowing that, which I think is like, if you're a therapist, like is an amazing thing to know, that like you can talk to someone and be kind and listen and have physical contact with them or not even, and make a profound or facilitate a profound change within them. And you don't have to do much more than that. That can be really freeing and maybe even empowering to know. And if you're out there learning more 3-letter techniques, no teacher is going to tell you that.
That's
right?
True. Yeah. Because people want to pay for the techniques. There's no like holding space class for their, I mean, there should be, but there is no, in this class, we're going to learn how to interact with someone.
Yeah. And there's no like financial incentive to like teach people something that is, I mean, I think you can have different skills of listening, right? You can have someone who's a quite terrible listener, and you can have someone who's a profoundly great listener. But like, I think learning how to listen doesn't require much more than practicing it and And I guess partly working on yourself, right? Which can be
Yeah.
scary. And
I actually think there's a lot to learning how to listen. Because listening is not just with ears.
That's true.
Right? We're literally listening with our eyes, with our bodies, with our guts, with every layer of our energy field is listening, potentially, if we're open to that.
Yeah.
And I think you're a very good listener, actually. I don't even know if you're aware of all the layers of listening that you're doing, but you listen very well.
So I guess I shouldn't assume that it's just like, oh, you can just, I have the tendency to do this, I think, of like, take something that you could learn how to do well. And if it was easy for me to learn, I'm like, oh, you do this. But if it was hard, then I'm like, oh, that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's different for different people. And that was one thing I was thinking about regarding our talk today is like, people think about, or we talk about energy. And for me, it's like, I hear energy and I'm like, oh, electromagnetism. Like there's a really pragmatic way to just think about it. Like, because having studied that, I'm like, of course, energy is real because it actually is. Like it's just not. Yeah. What I was also thinking about came to mind today was like, would it even be physically possible to measure that energy with the electronic instruments we developed up on the hill here? And I'm not convinced we have instruments sensitive enough to do that.
Oh.
We do locally. You have to pinprick, like I don't know if you saw Jose's studies that he did in Russia or whatever, where he showed the different, he showed the different receptor voltage levels.
Yeah.
But what I tell my clients is the most sensitive thing we have to pick that up is, our hands.
Right.
Either therapy localizing oneself or what have you. Anyways, that just sort of came to me.
Yeah. I also was wondering, as you were talking about your energy measuring devices and measuring the frequencies, I'm like, man, it would be so interesting if you could measure different energetic frequencies of like a person's voice when they're speaking a lie or speaking the truth or speaking a healing vibration or me. Have you seen any of the heart math stuff?
Seen it briefly, but I haven't seen it in detail.
I could not explain to you scientifically what they're studying, but it's something about the resonance field of the heart. There's all kinds of studies they're doing about how one person in a state of unconditional love, that resonance just goes out and impacts for a long, far distance, many people.
No doubt. Because I mean, they've done the studies with meditation, where a group of people are meditating to try and instill feelings of love and peace, and have measured, lower levels of domestic violence and all that sort of stuff. But what came to mind, I was building this little project the other day, and I needed to measure something on the sound spectrum, and that inclined me to download this app that is basically a little spectrum analyzer. And I got to geek out and pretend like I was a engineer again. But I don't know if you can see this very well. This is a spectrum analyzer.
Yeah.
So like I worked on these for electrical things, but this is all sound. So it goes from 0 to 20 or 30 hertz to 20,000 hertz.
Right.
If I whistled, poorly granted, but I'm whistling at about 1,200 hertz there. See that little dot that comes up?
Yep.
So that's basically a spectrum analyzer. And yeah, I imagine you could, like, if someone's speaking a lie, it would be highly individual to them. Like, when this person lies, they emit, energy in these bands or whatever. Right. And when they tell the truth, they emit more energy in these other bands. But I think given how individually varied we are, to extract out that pattern of like lies across all humans, I think we would need like a artificial intelligence to like
to help out,
sort that data out. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
But
yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would do with a measurement of that, but
Yeah.
just kind of interesting
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah. That could have some, like, we might not necessarily want some people to know when we're lying, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I can always tell when people are lying.
Mm.
I know instantly because the vibration in my body changes.
Yeah.
And I feel like, oh, this does not, yeah, it's like, I mean, do you have this, like this ability
Mm-hmm.
to feel when someone's speaking the truth as well
Mm-hmm.
as they know it?
Yeah.
And when they're not?
Yeah. Sometimes they're lying to themselves. You
Right.
can kind of, and it's kind of a less like, there's less evil involved almost, or this is what I feel.
Yeah.
When they're lying and they're lying to get what they want, then it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Manipulation energy.
Yeah. 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 And you can tell it's like, it's a feeling you get in your body for sure.
Yep.
At least that's what I perceive. Um, yeah. And just in as much as this is something I've been thinking a lot about it too as well, is just the truth in speech.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like speech is so valuable in the way that like we're having a talk right now can be valuable. The when you twist the fabric of reality by saying something that isn't in harmony with reality,
Mm-hmm.
like bad, nothing good comes out of it. Like one thing Jordan Peterson says that I really like is like you're gonna pay a price for what you whether you speak or whether you don't speak. Sometimes we should speak and we don't, right? And then he says you're gonna pay a bigger price for that. Whereas if you speak, you'll pay a price too.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like the Buddhist principle of like, life is suffering. We're going to suffer either way. You might as well speak or bring forth the word of God or speak the truth. I didn't say it very eloquently, but
No, I understand, and I felt in my body what you were talking about. I was
cool.
like, "Ugh, I don't like that." I don't even like the Buddhist saying life is suffering. I think that truth has there's a higher truth, I think. That life is suffering until you learn to experience pain as a sensation rather than have resistance to it.
Yeah. And I would say that that's like acceptance of the suffering, right? Like pain is a sensation. I'm accepting pain and feeling it as opposed to resisting it.
Yeah.
And like the thing Noah and I are always like going back and forth on is like the higher truth is great, and then there's also the rungs that we need to attain the higher truth. And I think saying that life is suffering at least prepares you to engage in life.
Totally.
Like whereas like I think sometimes I've seen this with some of my my son's classmates and stuff. They're told that the life is great, and people are nice, and it's like not really preparing them for the potential challenges and tragedies and suffering that there could be.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that statement, life is suffering, helps people to, you will feel some things that are challenging. Mm-hmm. You will feel some pain. But then at some point, this is how I feel. I stopped perceiving anything that I'm going through as a suffering experience. I don't suffer. I'm going through something challenging right now. My body is experiencing this pain. I'm crying now, but there's no suffering. Because I don't resist it. I let my body do what it needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That that's interesting. I think another way to even look at that too is like what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Like I'm in pain. You can always find something that you can learn from it. Like even if you can just learn that you are capable of withstanding that pain. But I think even more productive, like your suggestion is to accept it and be with it. And then you can also and then once you're there, you can maybe have the courage to take the actions to address whatever may be causing it.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to cry, for example. Allow yourself to feel the feeling. Yeah.
And there's some people who complain that, why are these spiritual people always trying to find meaning in everything? Sometimes there's no meaning.
Mm.
And I disagree with that. I don't think it has to mean, what people sometimes think it means. But there's usually some meaning that can be gained from anything that's challenging.
Yes, this is definitely something I want to talk to you about. Meaning.
Yeah.
Meaning, and then beliefs too. So like, I've been thinking about meaning. Jordan Peterson talks about meaning a lot. As meaning as like a, not speaking spiritually, but like as a human being instinctually, that meaning is an instinct. This is something he said. And I've thought about that. I'm like, huh. And I look back, and for example, as I was working as an engineer, and there was some instinct within me that knew I shouldn't be here. Like there's not enough here for me. There's not enough meaning, right? And then other examples of that is like, you were in a class, for example, like we were in a class together that would I would say violently oscillate between extremely meaningful and then what am I doing
bullshit.
Here? Yeah. So like, I think you're in the place of meaning when everyone is at attention, like, oh shit, what is going on here? And we would notice that sometimes we were learning something like quite useful and profound and interesting. Like everyone would be like, wait, what just happened there? What's this? And and everyone was like interestingly engaged. And then when it was just like some display of whatever, or like some example that wasn't particularly relevant, and everyone could kind of sense that and know that, oh, this isn't really that.
Yeah, tune out. I would just tune out.
Yeah. So there were vast swaths of time in my life where I'm like, I'm tuning out. And I think that is our instinct for like meaningful engagement. And I think the more we can be engaged meaningfully, the better our lives will be, and the more productive we become in whatever way we can become productive for our the human race, helping each other people. And so far, since my career in Agilent and all the way to this, I don't think I've found anything more that provides more meaning than helping someone else, which is, definitely did not expect that when I first started working.
But when you're in the process of helping someone else, I'm curious if you also experience healing for yourself at the same time.
Yeah, I would say definitely so. I think I've always admired you and Noah and your ability to speak in the spiritual terms. I think like that's something I can do, but it's not like my zone of genius. It's like not like the thing I'm the best at. And so I think when I'm working with someone, I'm not really as tuned into the spiritual side of things as I am like, well, at least those aren't the words I use in my brain, right?
Yeah.
But I'm having a discussion with them about a problem. And maybe it's as simple as like a logical, mechanical problem. Oh, this is affecting this, this is affecting this, and we need to make these things better. Maybe it's the ankle that's affecting their back or whatever. Or it's like a, for lack of a better word, a psychological problem, or a problem that they need to get out. They need to speak. As you notice, when they speak, they spontaneously sort of heal and get better. As we go back and forth, I'm talking and having a spontaneous realization of my own and new insights, which I interpret as healing for myself, while they are as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
I think there's no real giving that is not also receptive.
And I think that's true of when we talk too. Like when we really talk, like in a discussion, like I think the last time you and I had a discussion, it was just like, I felt great afterwards. You felt great afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
We both gained from it.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that is true on every level, that when both people are engaged in being truthful to each other and speaking,
Mm-hmm.
that both will heal. Maybe. I think that's probably true.
You'll have your own experience of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice it more and more. But I've learned, if I'm thinking of myself as the doer of the healing, then I'm not receptive to the person or to receiving healing myself. But if I consider the relationship as a partnership, the energy moves like this. It's like flowing to you and flowing back to me and flowing to you and flowing back to me. And it's a very deep connection that you can have with people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the I am the doer of the healing is like a place of arrogance as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're in this place of arrogance, I am the healer. I know what's best for them. I'm going to do this thing to them, and they will reap the benefits, and I will reap the benefit of their money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a much more limiting place to be than, okay, I'm going to engage in this practice, is why we call it a practice, with the knowledge that there are things wrong with this person that I have no idea what to do about yet.
Yeah.
What can I learn from them while simultaneously having them learn from me, and we can help and heal each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the doer thing is like an arrogance thing.
Yeah.
At least in part.
And it's I personally can't tolerate it. For someone working with me. I won't do that anymore. Where if someone thinks they're doing something to me and we're not in partnership, forget it.
Yeah.
And it's very energetic, because there's going to be people out there who believe that they're working in a partnership, in a healing partnership, but that's not what their energy's saying. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, have you experienced that?
Yes, I have. I don't know that I can articulate a specific experience of it, but I probably use different words to so say it again in your words.
Well, like for me, it's been things like I go to see someone and the person goes through the motions of asking me questions and asking for follow-up questions, which just literally guides them for what to do to me next. Or there's no receptivity to that person. There's no feeling of flow. I literally feel like a piece of meat that is on a table that is just replying to them when they need to know what to do with my meat next. Have you,
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I've had that feeling before.
So it's just important, I think, for people to recognize that it's possible for us to receive healing and give healing
Simultaneously.
Yeah. And it wasn't apparent to me for a long time, but it became part of my regular experience. So that when people come to see me, I'm like, great, I get 3 hours of body work today. Because I know I'm going to be doing the body work for someone else, but the energy that's present with that person, the healing energy that's part of the experience, is going to be working on me too.
Yeah. Which brings me into, I think this is a nice segue into talking about belief a little bit. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this. For example, that belief that, because I think there's an obsession today with what is provable scientifically.
Yeah.
That is really hindering people's ability to heal. And I think we talked about this a little bit on the phone last time. But for example, you holding the belief that even if it's unprovable, like there's no measurable, which really just means we suck at measuring, but there's no measurable benefit for you entering in this session receptively for yourself as well as for them.
Yeah.
Let's say you can't measure it, which again means you suck at measuring. We suck at measuring collectively as human beings. The benefit of holding that belief for you can be quite profound and amazing and make your job better. that we could definitely measure, I think, just with a satisfaction survey or something.
Yeah.
Which brings to the question of like belief. Like people, I think this is a great exercise for people to do. Like, what beliefs do I carry actually, and which ones help me or harm me? As and that I think like the great religious truths, the ones that are like true across multiple religions and all different forms of spirituality, are distillations of truths that that do that for us, that are like beneficial.
Yeah.
And perhaps not provable at all, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the dangers we have in today's society is discarding beliefs that are not provable yet very, very useful.
Right.
And it's certainly been one of my own realizations, because I used to be much more atheistic, I should say, and bodywork kind of brought me away from that. Because you experience these moments where you're like, wow, synchronicity,
Totally. Yeah, that I think for a lot of people, body work is one way that we can understand that we are one,
mm-hmm.
and feel a sense of unity. Nature is another.
Mm-hmm.
When people get out in nature, they feel that very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends on your openness to, like you said, challenge your beliefs.
Yeah.
And discard ones that maybe are limiting.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the beliefs that I would have thought were good,
mm-hmm.
really high value, high truth level beliefs, even some of those I have discarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think given the complexity of the human being, like, I think from looking from a rational, reasonable perspective, the amount of neurons we have and synapses and stuff, like, we are the most complicated thing there is that we know of, right?
Mm-hmm.
That given that I think the optimal set of beliefs might be different per person based on other factors, like based on the propensity to do certain things.
Yeah.
Now, it would be nice if there was like a codified set of, all right, if you carry these beliefs that are not provable, that your life will be better. And that was true across everybody. But
yeah.
I don't think I've ever encountered any sort of smaller truth, to air quote that, and that is true across every bodywork client, right?
Yeah.
At least I have yet to, I mean, aside from like obvious, more spiritual ones, like speaking the truth will get you farther, right?
Right.
But I guess like I think there are individual ones that we could say are generally true across, truly beneficial for everyone. And then there might be ones that are less beneficial for a certain individual than another one would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm articulating that clearly.
I get it. Like,
we're out in the woods here.
I think you're saying maybe like if a person has a propensity to do harm to others,
mm-hmm.
it wouldn't serve them to release the belief that I'm trying to think of an example now, but there would be beliefs that person could have that would keep them like under wraps, so to speak.
Yeah, totally.
Keep them from, but then in that, even that example, there's a belief that there are people that have a propensity to do harm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just layers and layers and layers and layers of beliefs.
True.
But I will say, I don't know if you've ever read any of Brene Brown's stuff.
Mm-mm.
But she does a lot of qualitative research around, so in the field of sociology, around wholehearted living. That's what she calls it. So people who live in a wholehearted way, she just studies the different practices they have in their life.
What's the sort of definition of wholehearted living?
Well, I'm not going to do it justice.
Okay, fair enough.
But like a happy life, essentially. Happy, balanced life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have the people around you that you have the support that you want and need. You feel joy in your life. You You
Mhm.
feel all the emotions. Your life is in balance. You have work balance and kid balance and happy marriage and all of that. One of the beliefs that she ascribes to the people who live in a wholehearted way is that everyone is doing the best that they can at all times.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting belief, actually.
Yeah.
And I at this point, I agree.
Hmm. Okay. Everyone is doing the best that they can. Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, that is an interesting one. So, like, what happens if so they're doing the best that they can at any given moment? This gets into like time travel. Then they encounter some piece of wisdom, let's say, that gets them to do better than they were doing the moment prior.
Right.
You can look back on the time, and of course they were doing the best that they could, but suddenly they are doing better once they encounter each new piece of wisdom that they acquire and integrate. They then start doing better and better. Looking backwards in time, I think it's true.
Yeah. At your own history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look, like, what if you look forwards in time? Yeah. I'll have to think about that one a little bit more.
Well, most of us don't know how to accurately look forward in time.
Yeah, true. I guess the only trepidation I have about that particular belief, I think it's great for looking at one's own timeline.
Yeah.
I did the best that I could at every given time, and that if I talk about my own faults and problems that I had, which there were plenty, and I look back and I was doing the best I could at every given time, I'm like, yeah, that is true. I guess my only reservation with that particular belief is the potential misuse of it to
Bypass.
make yourself apathetic. Like, oh, I'm doing the best that I can, therefore I don't have to do better than I am
Yeah.
currently doing right now.
Yeah.
You could use it as an excuse to get away with bad behavior in the present.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I think beliefs, as long as you're not fooling yourself with a belief for the current, to serve yourself in the current moment, then I think maybe that's also a rule. Never subvert a belief for your own present, now, immediate gains.
Right.
You know, if the belief doesn't serve, oh, maybe it's across all time.
Okay.
As long as you don't use the belief to make the present moment better at the expense of the future moment. Like, I'm going to do this bad thing because it was meant to be, per se, even though I know it will make the future a month from now worse, to get what I want right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the use of oh, everything happens for a reason, to use an example. Right.
Yeah.
Looking backwards in time, you can always say, well, that happened for a reason. That taught, because it taught me all these wonderful things. Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is cool. I think we're finding new things out.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I don't even know. Yeah, I was just going to use the example of like a person with alcoholism who knows
Mm-hmm.
that they're an alcoholic, and yet they get drunk again.
Yeah.
And to me, that still means they're doing the best that they can, because they don't have the energy yet to break out of the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they know they're an alcoholic and they're doing harm to themselves.
Yeah.
But right now, that's the best tool they have, because they haven't gone into the future yet to have that awareness of, oh, I don't have to drink. I can chew gum or whatever, more reasonable things. I can talk about my feelings. I can go to an AA meeting. I can pray. I can ask for support.
Mm-hmm. one thing I've heard is like, once you give up drinking, let's say you're an alcoholic, that you should go, I think Jordan Peterson said this. I hate quoting him so many times in one, but he's
Fine.
what I'm steeped in right now.
Yeah.
It's like you need to go on an adventure, because something exciting that could replace all the excitement and fun you had with alcohol needs to fill that void.
There needs to be a new resource.
Yeah.
And preferably a resource that does not hurt you in the same way. So people quit smoking cigarettes. What do they do with that addiction? It usually gets displaced onto something else.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you really are facing the feelings that are causing you to engage in the addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be a new resource there, something. Maybe it's adventure. Maybe it's connection with joy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's finally crying.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's having a good friend, or who knows. There are lots of things. Yeah, I agree. That's another thing that I work with a lot. You can't take away something from someone without giving them a new thing to replace it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how am I going to take away someone's pain? Not that I do this, but how am I going to take away someone's pain without giving them something higher, stronger to work with? Some new thing, a new understanding, a new way of seeing the world, a new pattern to engage in, something else to put their energy towards rather than the pain or the injury.
Yeah. And that rings true for me, especially in regards to like, in some techniques, you can eliminate a bad pattern of something, right? And what is there to fill the void of that pattern, right? Like, have they gained anything from that? Well, the pattern is gone for now. But what else are they walking out with? Are they walking out with some knowledge about their body? Well, not really, because it's kind of esoteric and weird to teach the entire person said technique, right?
Yeah.
And you just did a bunch of things and they just were receiving, maybe doing a muscle test or something. So yeah, that totally rings true. Like, it should be replaced with something, or they should have something to take with them that isn't just the absence of what they came in with.
Yeah.
Some new knowledge, some new understanding, some new practice to engage in.
Right.
That definitely seems true to me.
And I think it's true in all levels. So whether you're doing body work, yes. So from a pragmatic place, you work with someone's back pain and you send them home with a stretch or an exercise or some tool to use in their life.
Yep.
For
or
me,
meditation around fear.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
When I'm working with someone and we're clearing things, that leaves space in the body. And what happens when there's a vacuum? Like, something's going to come in to fill it, right? Yeah. So at the end of every session, when I'm doing clearing with someone, I always have them breathe light into the spaces that they've cleared, so that there's not a lack of it. They don't feel the emptiness. They don't feel that missingness. Yeah. Or, when I'm doing energy work with someone, patterns are healing, things in the body are healing, and yet I'm just holding them with so much love that the love is there to fill in the spaces.
Yeah, that definitely sounds true to me as well. Like, something that stood out from the course that you guys hosted, Noah said the default state is, the love should come in. I always think of it in terms of the frequency of 500 from that chart. But yeah, one thing that popped into my head as we're talking is this idea of time. And I've read some of your posts in regards to time, of like how spiritually, there is no time. There's like, we're experiencing it in this linear fashion, the past, the present that is now, and then the future. Yeah. And but that's not how it works on a spiritual level. And I would say that it's not even how it works on a psychological level, which I just kind of had this realization last week. I'm like, memory, I was reading through this book called The Emotional Brain, by Joseph Ledoux or something, is a French name, I think. But the explicit memories that we have are so fallible, and they get rewritten as we change sort of our narrative story, which is why stories are so important. So it's like, it's almost as if we went back in time and changed the context around the story. We might as well have time traveled, because to our current experience of like, you know, we want the best for ourselves and want the best for our people around us. Like if we can rewrite our memories or recontextualize them such that they serve us best right now and going forward, that is almost the same. Pragmatically speaking, essentially it's the same as going back in time and changing what happened around them. I'd say it might even be better than changing the circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually better than time travel. It's if you can take your experiences and get what's distilled as the best things out of them, and carry that forward in time. You're changing your memory system, your explicit memories, as well as changing the involuntary stuff, the stuff that the amygdala writes into your brain of fear responses around things.
Yeah.
Then you've actually gained all you can out of the experience and walked away with none of the detriments. And I think, so in that sense, like time travel is true on an individual level, and, individual now in this lifetime. Time, there is the time pragmatically doesn't really follow the same rules that like Einstein and all the physicists would say for the individual. And then there's the whole spiritual piece, which I think is also true, and as I've experienced it given the work that we've done together, but that's a little harder for people to get to, I think, right off the bat. I think there's those ladders we have to climb first before I think some people are ready to engage in those ideas or play with those ideas, at least, through speech and like having this type of conversation.
A lot of people that I work with, and even some of the energy schools that I'm doing, go back in time to an experience. So imagining like a linear timeline, right? Going back in time to an experience and bringing in a understanding. So looking at the experience, understanding it, but also giving a resource. Like an energetic resource. So whether that is rewriting the experience so that it goes the way that you would have wanted it to go, or bringing in like some angelic being or something, or having your mother present when she wasn't, or rewriting that and then bringing all of that energy forward in time to the present moment, so that the energy can be healed and in alignment with where you are right now. It's literally feels like it never happens. Like the way you rewrote it feels totally real.
That's awesome.
It's so neat.
That sounds pretty much exactly like what I was just describing. Like, I think a lot of these spiritual practices, especially like this newer stuff that you're doing, and like there's this there's real concrete ways that it's actually doing things that I think we can just that can be described, at least on like the level that I like them described as, like, or that I'm inclined to describe them as, which is like we're talking about implicit and explicit memory, and what you just described was like doing a spiritual. I think we need actually maybe like these angels or this idea, because we're so mysterious, like how the brain is set up and how consciousness even fucking works, to be honest. Like it's so mysterious. Like, and we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years maybe, depending upon who you ask or whatever, but the way we used to interact in the world wasn't all sort of logic and evidence-based medicine driven, like this overly logical place we're in right now. there were spirits in the sky, there were shamans, so there's a deep part of us that needs this, like, I would say esoteric, like spiritual woo language
Mystical.
to be
Yep.
mystical, this mystical part of us that is part of us. Whether or not you really believe it, like down to your core or not, I think is somewhat immaterial. I think everyone would benefit from engaging in it because it is part of, at the very least, being human. And anyways, I think it's totally awesome.
And the other end of the timeline stuff is we create multiple timelines anytime we put our energy toward an a desired outcome. And so sometimes we're putting our energy into outcomes we don't actually want. And so I'll have people call back their energy from the future to the current moment to eliminate the potential for that outcome to manifest.
Yeah. It's that makes sense. Like part of that whole part of our, well, I'm thinking of the vectors, the emotional vectors, right? We have a huge part of our brain that is, devoted to anticipating things. And I think if we spend, maybe even unwittingly, like we're holding a bunch of anxiety towards a specific outcome.
Yep.
I think sometimes there's energetically, spiritually, there's that energy we're sending towards something that we don't want to manifest, right? And then practically speaking, we are in the present moment harming ourselves by carrying too much of this emotion of, call it like irrational fear about an outcome that isn't going to happen or whatever. So we can resolve maybe both of those, right? Like get the energy directed somewhere else and resolve the current problem so we can set yourself on a different path.
Right.
I think that one works like from a causal, almost linear perspective, as well as, from this spiritual dimension. So I love it when that happens. When it works out at like every level of analysis, like practically now, logically, forwards and backwards, and then also spiritually. That's my favorite thing to discover.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we just could keep going.
Yeah, we could.
But I think we can wrap it up if that's good with you. I think we had a really awesome conversation. If anybody wants to book with you or wants to work with you or just pick your brain, what would be the easiest way for people to get in touch with you?
We could do a Zoom meeting, but I have my website, santarosapainandperformance.com.
Yeah.
And that's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
You can also contact me on, or add me as a friend on Facebook.
Okay.
I do check messages on there. And then my email address is julian@painandperformance.solutions. Slightly different URL than my business address, but
yeah. .solutions. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Good. I'll let you put that on the bottom of the Facebook page in case anybody wants to reach out.
Cool.
Thank you so much. It was a fascinating chat as always.
Yeah.
We'll just keep going for 3 more hours, but I'm hungry. So.
Me too.
All right. Thank you so much, Julian.
You're welcome.
Bye.
See ya.